Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio, powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us. Help fund the movement. Help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here with your co-host, back in the studio today for another HEBROES episode, the great Professor Penn. Welcome back to the studio, Professor Penn. We're happy to have everybody here again this evening. A little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't been, tune in Monday through Friday, every weeknight, Monday through Friday on the John Fredericks Radio Network for the Royce White Radio Show that airs at 9 p.m. Eastern on the John Fredericks Radio Network. You'll also be able to hear the playbacks on YouTube, on Rumble in the weeks to come. You'll also be able to hear them on a new audio platform podcast channel entitled The Royce White Show, where we will have the radio show playbacks as well as the Royce White Show premiering this Saturday with Real America's Voice. So a lot on the docket. Go to Royce White at Royce White USA on YouTube, youtube.com/@Royce White USA. And there we'll have the audio videos as well of the radio show with subtitles and other audio visual aids. So trying to be a little bit everywhere for you guys to get to the content. Today we got the great Professor Penn back in the studio. Welcome back, Professor Penn.
It's good to be here.
We're happy to have you. We're happy to have you.
Nice to see you. This is the only chance I get to see you when we do these now.
I know.
You get so busy.
Busy.
Unbelievable.
Busy. But you know, we like it busier rather than not. We the only thing to talk about is World War III. I mean, we might as well just dive straight into the World War III of the day. I want to hear your take on what you've been seeing. I know before we got on just now, the Senate passed a bill to fund all three of the potential land wars on the Eurasian landmass.
Yes. Well,
all three wars on the Eurasian landmass.
2 out of 3 are well underway. 2 out of 3 are.
I'd say all three are well underway.
Well, they haven't really popped off there in the South China Sea yet.
Yeah, they popped off. They sent us a bioweapon. So.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty much as
it's
popping off
95
as
billion. 95 billion. As my father used to say, a mere bagatelle. It's only $100 billion. Come on.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of money.
$100 billion to refortify all three forever wars.
You know, it's a cover story. The $100 billion.
Mm-hmm.
It covers up. You know, they just audited recently. This is very recent, like in the last couple months. By statute, they have to audit the inventory of the U.S. Defense Department.
Right.
The DOD, they audit. They spent $88 million, which is not a small amount of money. People say, well, how do you do it? Well, $88 million, that's an army of accountants. They sent them out. Do you know what they found?
Fraud.
They found out they are expecting to count $4 trillion of weapons in inventory, but they could only find $2 trillion. $2 trillion. It reminds me of that scene from Goodfellas. You know what? Remember when they're bringing the liquor in the front door and it's going out the back door? I think this $100 billion is just to, have a little plausible deniability, like there's some funding. Because what really happened was half the inventory is gone. It's just gone.
It's already there.
It's somewhere. It's somewhere. Like the Matrix, it's everywhere and nowhere.
So what do you make? I mean, obviously, we're on the war path with Russia in a major way. You got Poland, they're operationalizing in their airspace, fortifying their border.
They shot down 3
Russian cruise missiles
last night.
So they say.
They
say they're Russian cruise missiles.
That's what they say.
Well, how do you know?
We don't know.
Yeah. How does anybody know?
We don't know.
Just like, Russia blew up the Nord pipeline, right?
For a while.
And then we found out it was
somebody else.
There's
great. It's hilarious because you can go right on YouTube and Victoria Nuland And President Biden
saying we will blow up the Nord Pipeline
well,
if
they
need
didn't.
be.
No, they didn't
The
say it
Nord
quite.
Stream.
They implied.
No, they
it.
did. They said it.
Well, they did say it, but it was a threat.
I mean, the threshold for evidence and proof that you need these days to verify that somebody said something below brow is that's an admittance.
My spirits are
When
lifted.
they say that Donald Trump is dog whistling white supremacy for any number of things he says, like let's have a border, then when you say if need be, we will destroy the Nord Stream pipeline, what am I supposed to think? I mean, the threshold for proof has to the burden of proof's got to be the same for everybody.
It's funny. This lion is becoming so evident. Now, I recognize, and I do want to say this for everybody, we are a political action broadcast. We're not doing this to sit up here and just talk. There's actually a political movement here, and everyone who's watching and listening can help by following Royce on X. You can follow Professor Penn on X. I'm at Prof. Penn Podcast. Yeah. We want to go confront and work together as a community to reveal some of this skullduggery and these lies.
Yeah.
But the lies are getting so bold. They're actually getting funny. It's actually getting funny. No, really, it's making me, because the narrative's breaking down.
Yeah.
That gives one hope and gives one levity. Because when you lie at this level, like just the one today, remember we were driving in the car, I said, the Associated Press came out with an article just today. You can go look it up. Don't take it from me. Go look it up. Go up, and they put out a thing that the national debt, the publicly held national debt, was at 99% of GDP. And the reason why they said that is those of us in the know recognize that in the history of humanity, when a debt exceeds the GDP of a country, it doesn't get paid back. It's never happened before. I'm not saying we couldn't pay it back, but it's looking very unlikely. And they were very careful about this. They said 99%. I thought 99%? We owe $34 trillion and our GDP is $26 trillion. What happened? Well,
voila.
The Federal Reserve is holding $10
trillion
on their books. And you know what that's telling me? That's not public debt. The Federal Reserve is a private enterprise.
Well, that's not new news. The Fed being a private enterprise is 100%.
I didn't say it was new. I'm saying it's going to bust out into
it's
the
serious.
Yeah, it's like.
But it's all. You watch The Creature on Jekyll Island. I think next week, maybe this weekend, I'm gonna run the. I just keep throwing stuff back in people's face. I'm not doing it to be flippant or an asshole. But some of this stuff. We all sort of pretend like we don't know what the answers are, and that really bothers me. Because when you're an athlete, if there's a problem, the answer is the answer. And you download the answer, you get the answer, and you apply the answer. There's none of this fucking around, playing around like there's like we don't know what the answer is. It's just like this fucking guy just hit 4 straight threes on you. You got to get out to him sooner. You got to be closer. You got to make him more uncomfortable. If you don't, he's gonna fucking bust your ass.
I can testify watching you play basketball that when that happens, there's some screaming.
Yeah, it's not a fucking around matter.
It can lead to some.
Jostling
after the game.
You know what I mean?
I've seen it lead to some jostling after the game.
You know what I'm saying?
Holding people accountable.
So what I'm saying is, this whole kind of fugazi we got going in American culture, like we don't know what the answer is, really kind of bothers me.
The answer is simple.
Well, just let's talk about the Fed. The Fed is a private institution. It is. It's a bunch of private bankers. They've been in power for a very long time. We don't need to talk about Rothschilds or conspiracy theories or anything like that. If you want to talk about banking as a genuine conspiracy, the Federal Reserve is one of the most open and blatant financial conspiracies in the history of our country, at least the history of the entire world.
Of the history of the world.
Yeah,
yes.
It's right there in the open. So, yeah, it's a private institution. But even more, and I keep trying to tell people this. I keep saying, even the idea that we can't pay the debt back is a scam. There's a scam nestled within a scam here. If the money's phony, which the money is phony in general. Okay, let's just put that on the table. Whether or not you, as an American working class citizen, has to pay $1 to taxes or pay $1 for gas is not the point. The point is there's a level with which economics and currency become almost completely fictitious. I mean, there's no real substance to it because it's a
piece of paper.
It's paper money. It's and even more so it's electronic money. Okay.
I read,
So
I don't know if it's true, that 97% of the money is now electronic.
Okay. So my point is, if the money's fake, okay, the money is fake. If the money is fake, why can't we pay back the debt? It doesn't make any sense.
Because we keep making more debt.
No. But that's not even the problem. Whoever holds the debt, if the money is fake, if you can print another $100 billion to send to the Ukraine overnight that you don't have, then you could print $100 billion to start paying the debt. So why don't they just pay the debt?
Because
that's not how money works, right?
Well, no, that's not how slavery works.
There you go. That's my point.
Right.
Them not paying the debt is a conscious choice. They could take the same fiat.
We're being enslaved.
Could take the same fiat phony money, and they could say, you know what, whoever holds the bonds, whatever countries we owe, here's the paper money. We're giving the same people the paper money anyway when we go to print these continued resolutions to raise the debt ceiling and send money for any of these other agendas. It's the same money anyway. So, I mean, it's kind of like a triple scam going on here. And we're caught up in it. Like, we believe in the debt, but we believe in fiat currency. We believe in the Fed, and you believe that your local Wells Fargo is holding your cash in case you need to go get $10,000. I mean,
as long as too many people don't go on the same day, it works just fine.
Okay, my point is, but that's a cash thing. When it comes to global macroeconomics, the money is getting exchanged on paper. It's getting exchanged on computers.
Digitally.
There is no bank run problems on the debt. Just pay the fucking money. Print it. Print $30 trillion. I mean, what's good? They're acting like
Well, that'd be the same thing as saying write it off. Just write it off. It's not real in the first place. This is the part that if the AP is going to go out and say that we're at 99% of GDP and leave off the $10 trillion that the Fed's holding, which was created money, monetized debt, there was never even money
it's
borrowed.
It's the VIG.
We're just
on the 34 trillion, 9 trillion is the VIG.
No, we're paying the VIG on the 9 trillion.
No, I get that, but I'm saying the 9 trillion is
there. But they created it.
Yes.
There was not profit. There was no sweat that created that.
Yes.
There was no creativity.
It's their broker fee.
It's just BS.
Yeah,
we're just paying back interest to a private institution that is vested with the authority to create money. It's the greatest scam. If you and I try it, we're going to jail.
Of course. George Floyd.
Come on.
Counterfeit money.
Lost his life over that
$20 bills.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I say counterfeit money. Counterfeit money. You guys want to talk about counterfeit money? George Floyd.
Oh, that's really funny.
George Floyd.
That's really funny.
You guys want to talk about counterfeit money?
So if you counterfeit up 9 trillion, you're good to go. But if you get caught with a 20, I think Bob Dylan had a song like that. Exactly had that line. Bob Dylan, he said, steal a little and they throw you in jail. Steal a lot and they make you the king. Yeah. And there it is, right there.
Perfect example.
Bob was all over the top of it.
And that's why this is the belly of the beast. That's why I brought people to the Federal Reserve.
I went with you. Remember when I went with you? I went with you to the Federal Reserve.
This is ridiculous. $20 bills. And you could have a fistful of them. You could have $1,000 in counterfeit $20 bills, and it has no impact on the rule of law.
You could start
at the level of the Fed.
I got to tell you something. I remember the first time this came up. I was younger than you. I was like 23, 24 years old, and I had this mentor, and this guy was hilarious. He's dead now. I'm going to say his name. His name was Joe B. Thomas. I'd never met anybody like this before. Joe was a big man, big. And he came off the airplane, and I picked him up at the airport, and he was wearing a full body length Gestapo-style leather jacket. Mm-hmm. And I was young. I was not used to this kind of thing. And I looked at him, and I thought, this guy is a Nazi. And it turned out he was. Anyhow, on that trip, he started saying things to me like, this is like a long time ago. We're talking about early 80s. He said, Mr. Penn, do you know that dollar in your pocket only has a value because all these dummies think it has a value? He said, the first moment they figure out that it's paper, it has no value. So when we talk like this, it's
Dangerous?
it is very dangerous.
It's not dangerous. I mean, look.
It's the truth.
Look. There's nothing wrong with having currency. There's nothing wrong with having money. There's nothing wrong with having banks so that people can take loans to create things that have a future value that we can measure. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to create a business. I want to build a building. We all can agree that the building is going to have, I mean, there is proof to the economic model. Look at New York City. It's a perfect example. The New York City real estate market is gargantuan. It's almost unreal how, and that's real value. That's not fake value. I mean, that's people buying up commercial space to run a business or run a number of businesses or goods or services, and they're making ends meet. Okay, so I'm not against us having an economy. What I'm against is printing fake money at a level that puts us in debt, then telling us it's a debt when it's not really a debt, and then you come down with an iron fist on a George Floyd. And then we in the conservative movement go, oh, George Floyd was a criminal. He had all these counterfeit dollars and blah, blah, blah. And then you walk past the Federal Reserve. You walk past the Federal Reserve or drive past the Federal Reserve. I fucking hate when that happens. You walk past the Federal Reserve or drive past the Federal Reserve every single day, and you don't even turn your head. How many people do you think drive down Hennepin Avenue and never even look at the Federal Reserve and know what it is?
Neil Kashkari. Neil Kashkari, who is the Minneapolis Fed president.
Chair, yeah.
You know, back before COVID, when I was still weightlifting regular, he used to go over and he'd work out at that club, that Plymouth club, where we go sometimes, right?
Which one, the Lifetime?
Lifetime in Plymouth, right? And I knew who he was right away because he's a striking-looking, alien-looking motherfucker. Yeah, excuse me. And I was on the same workout schedule with him, and I was shocked. I mean, this is going on for months. And he'd go in there and nobody'd say a word to him.
Nobody knows who he is.
I walked up to him and I said, you know, Mr. Kashkari, it's nice to meet you. Nobody knows who you are in here, but I do. And it scared the living shit out of him. He got scared. He really got scared. But my point about him was he was just
That's a strange thing to say to somebody.
That I know who you are?
Yeah.
You think it was strange? Well.
Just working out. I mean, over a couple of curls and a couple of leg presses, that's kind of a...
Well, you know,
that's a freaky thing to say.
This is a Fed president going down here and lifting, and he's not guarded. He's completely exposed.
Because he's not important.
Well, I don't know that he's not important.
Give me a fucking break.
Oh,
they could stick any fucking Wharton Business School Finocchio in the chair of a Fed.
That's it. But, you know, he could be a Fed president someday.
He still wouldn't be important.
Well, Fed president's important.
No, he's not.
Yes,
Janet Yellen, these people are not important. You could substitute them with anybody. That's why they do the bidding of the establishment, because they know they're replaceable.
But that's the point, right? They are important because they've given over. I was watching Cash.
But what I'm saying is they're all interchangeable. You could put a blink in it. Not a blink in a, what was my guy's name?
Wink and blink and a nod?
No.
Jake Sullivan?
No. What was my guy's name that was the Bernanke? It could be Bernanke. It could
Greenspan,
be Yellen. It could be Kashkari. It could be Greenspan. It could be anybody. These people mean nothing. They are the prototypical administrative puppets that look like they have power on paper to other people who are in government.
Oh, you're saying they're actors?
I don't even say they have to be actors. They may actually believe in the institution. They may believe in the policy. They may believe their own bullshit. But what I'm saying is, when push comes to shove, what expertise do they bring? None. The country's in $34 trillion in debt.
I think that is their expertise.
That's
their expertise. That's pretty. You know, if you think about it, if you just sit back and think that you can convince 300 million people.
Yeah.
For no personal benefit. Like, I have loans, like, you know, I'm in business. I have loans, and they are there to support the growth of a business. But they convinced 300 million American citizens to go $34 trillion in debt. And I personally, and I'm I'm not rich. I mean, I'm just a regular guy. I don't know that I got any value out of that. Although Elizabeth Warren will tell me, the roads but the actual
The roads.
yeah, that my business is dependent on, the roads. AOC says it, that my business it's not really created by me, it's the society. And there's an element of truth in every lie. But I will assure you that my businesses are created by me. They're my artwork. Like when I watch you play basketball, there's an art to that thing that I appreciate because I'm an athlete, right?
Right.
Well, what we don't appreciate is, and there's so much judgment against business owners and business creators, like we're greedy, without any understanding of the risk involved, the courage that's required, the personal sacrifice and personal commitment, which is similar to athletics.
Yeah.
And it angers me that we're precluding American citizens from taking self-governance through self-employment. They're crushing that part, when I say they, the Fed, by rapidly raising the interest rates like this.
They're crushing independent business.
They're crushing
small business.
They're crushing small business. Crushing.
Hell, they're crushing big business.
Well, they're crushing everything up to, as our good friend Tom says, if I can use this word, the tallest of the midgets.
Right.
But the ones that are not midgets, it's all money's going uphill and shit's coming downhill.
But at the end of the day, you got to think, even a Walmart, for example, right? I mean, once a company becomes so big, putting that bottle right in the camera, even when a company becomes so big that
sorry,
a company becomes so big that it's publicly traded, and then BlackRock gets their 10%, and then Vanguard gets their 7%. I mean, who actually owns it? I mean, I think we have a kind of a fictitious view of ownership in this country, especially of big corporations.
I'm gonna comment on that because I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, for example, Mrs. Professor Penn has her own money because it's before she and I got involved. And she's invested, in her mind, very wisely. She put her money in after the crash of 2008, right? And so she feels like she's a genius investor. And I think a lot of people feel this way because when you're making a one-way bet, when your government is putting $1 trillion or $2 trillion in the pot every year to make sure the bubble keeps getting bigger, hey, a lot of money to be made. Well, I saw this a lot on X over the last couple of weeks, but they're saying Donald Trump, Joe Scarborough on Morning Joe, Donald Trump wants the economy to fail. He wants Americans to lose their 401ks.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is, hey, you're all in on it. All you people, don't think about that business model of slavery, drugs, and piracy. Don't think about these three wars. This is the Aaron Burnett story with, these are American jobs. I had a guy on X show up and say to me,
the money's going to American
these are American companies with American jobs building American weapons that kill Russians.
Yeah, fuck you, buddy.
But my point.
Go fuck yourself.
But you know what?
No, well, let's talk about this. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Let's get down to it.
The single greatest weakness of America's economy and America's national security is we are not our own reliable source of manufacturing. Simple. So you can defend the empire, but it's very hard to defend an empire where you promised material prosperity, technological prosperity, and security, and you can offer neither. You can't be a Ponzi schemer and not make good and deliver on the promises. And right now, we're not able to deliver and make good on the promises.
Why would you say that?
We're not able to deliver the material promises.
What do you mean they're just going to print up some more money?
No, but that's not going to cut it.
It's not?
No,
what's the shortfall?
Not. Absolutely not. Because all of these people, all of these vassal states, they have to contend with the spirit of the people that they preside over and govern over. If those people aren't if the people in America aren't materially satisfied with their life, It doesn't matter what you say on paper at the top end of the hill.
Are you saying that people are no longer materially satisfied?
Of course not. These fucking jerk-offs are on fucking Instagram flying to fucking Abu Dhabi and pretending that they're living some luxurious lifestyle they can barely afford for the single weekend. And they think they need to keep it up. Of course they're not able to. Of course they're not satisfied materially. They're materially demoralized.
So what we're saying is there's a lot of American citizens that have no borders spiritually.
Yeah, absolutely. But my point is, if you can defend the empire, that's fine. But you better damn well make sure that you can make the essentials you need to defend the empire. Because these other countries that we gave these false promises to, they're starting to look at the deal and go, wait a minute. All you guys are doing is printing phony money to buy airplanes to bomb us into submission. You're not offering your end of the deal. You're trying
Unless
to bully
you're
us.
part of Operation Prosperity Guardian, then you're on the other side of the football. It's
Right,
not that
right.
America's by itself.
Right.
There's a lot of people. I mean, that's what we've got now is this conflict about a multipolar world. That's what's going on. You know, this is this goes into the whole Putin thing and getting the truth out. This is on this one issue, truth. Because now, you know, you got me hooked on this social media. It's you. I used to think we'd go out to eat, right? And, you know, I'm older than you. Everybody knows it. And you'd be looking at your phone. I'd be thinking, this motherfucker has no respect. Now I'm out with Mrs. Professor Penn last night. I'm playing with my ex. She goes, I can't believe you're acting like this. But I get it, because when you get in there, it's a full blast commitment.
Full contact sport.
It is, and it's fun. I mean, it actually is fun for the people that can do it. I'm good at it. I like doing it, and I'm like, but my point is, on X this week, the Biden, he has his own account there. He announces, for the first time, Mexico is now our biggest trading partner. They've passed the Chinese because President Biden is confronting and defeating the Chinese on the economic.
Are they counting illegal immigrants? Is that part of the trade? Are those part of the units they're counting?
No, what they're not talking about is the reason why Mexico is growing so quickly is because the Chinese are relocating into Mexico. I mean, that's what's driving it. And, you know, everybody knows I'm in the tire business, and I made a statement on one of my podcasts. I don't know, there might not be anybody more knowledgeable about the tire business than I am. I've been doing it since '79 at every level, and I watch it really closely because it's
essential industry too.
It's essential, and it is a microcosm of the macrocosm. A supplier that I've been buying from, a Chinese-based supplier, Zhongse Rubber Company, the largest Chinese-owned tire company, they just announced this morning they're opening a factory in Saltillo, Mexico, and they'll be open in 2025.
Great.
So the USMCA seems to be a big business opportunity for the Chinese. They're coming to town in a big way. And when they come, let me tell you how they come. They bring a mold shop to make the tire molds. They bring a carbon black manufacturer to make carbon black. They open up they buy a steel plant. Okay. They come really organized. Like when we do stuff, it's ad hoc, right? Nobody has like a master plan because we're not state centrally planned. This is where they have such a great advantage, and they're smart. I don't hate the Chinese people. What I hate is my leadership that sold my business and my family out. I am mad at my people. What I can change through my own political activity, I can't change what the Chinese do. And they don't care what I have to say.
Right.
But I have political influence, and I have a vote. I can be politically active. My gosh, what are we doing to our country? That's what you're saying. If we can't manufacture, how do we keep the scam running?
Right.
There's a
no, it's not a scam if you manufacture.
It's for real, isn't it?
That's the point. If you manufacture, it's no longer a scam. If you manufacture, you can deliver on you got juice.
You know what the problem is with manufacturing? Can I tell you what the problem is? People.
What's wrong with people?
They're hard to manage.
No, fuck off.
No, it's hard to manage people. They
Fuck
go on
off.
strike.
The manufacturing
they don't come into work.
This is another scam. The
No, no.
manufacturing is not even people-based.
No, I'm talking about historically.
I know, but
Why
I'm
they
talking about now.
offshored. Well, now when
Why are they not doing it again? Let's go. Let's deal with things
you
as
can
they
talk
are.
about Industrial Revolution 4.0.
Let's talk about things as they are. If manufacturing has become so easy through technology, through 3D printing and machines and what have you, then why now do we have an example? I mean, I know why you justified it in the 70s. Oh, the Jimmy Hoffas of the world and the unions, they press too far, and now we got to pay the working man $30 an hour. Oh my God, we can't pay $30 an hour. We can't afford it. Oh my God. I know that story. But what's the story now?
The story now is, we don't need you. What are we going to do with all these people? You know what Harari said?
Give them drugs.
And video games.
But my point is,
games.
from a national security standpoint, why now not turn on the manufacturing here at home if you don't have to worry about paying the people, which they don't have to worry about?
You know, there's an interesting thing I've perceived with this manufacturing, because now we're talking about the manufacturing of weapons, something we're still very good at here in the United States, an area of core competency, one might say.
Mm.
What I've recognized, because of course I'm a news junkie, is we don't have to make the weapons here. Like the Patriot missile batteries, one of our greatest accomplishments. They've licensed Mitsubishi in Japan to build them.
Oh, great.
That would be that company built the Mitsubishi Zero. You know, all those young men that are at the bottom of Pearl Harbor, they were killed by Mitsubishi. But now they're on the home team.
Mm-hmm.
We license them. They do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So now the manufacturing of our military hardware has been globalized.
Right.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, no, it's fucking retarded.
Well, it kind of flies
It's
in the
retarded,
face
number one.
of all these people that come up and say, we're building American weapons and paying American workers.
Why the fuck do these people trust the Japanese? Let's talk about that. Well, why do what do you think? You think that the Japanese, I mean, these people's short history is so, these people in Japan, they didn't forget. They didn't forget. I mean, we neutered their military. See, we in America, we think we're playing them. I mean,
well, that's a good point.
We think that we're kind of just, the smartest, most clever thing on the fucking playground. Yeah, okay, we had the bombs, we dropped them, we had the balls to use them, we beat them into submission, and now they've been sitting there waiting. And they're going to wait until it's advantageous for them. And guess when it'll be advantageous for them? When China decides to go in on Taiwan and the Japanese go, oh, wait a second. You know what I think? I think you fuckers are a little too far to side with. And really, we don't have an army. I mean, the part of this entire South Pacific Sea strategy, as I hear from these Navy admirals, is, well, it's not just America. We're not just there. We got allies. And our allies are the Filipino army and the Japanese army and the South Korean army and the Vietnam army and all these other countries who are hostile to a China-centric hegemony in the region too. Okay, until they're not. Until the Koreans decide, we're going to roll with the winner here. Because when you do that type of game where it's based on who has the bigger gun, you're just setting it up for them to go with the winner. You're setting it up for them to trade up, for them to trade sides.
We're seeing it in the Middle East too, same thing.
It's already happened.
Right.
It's happened right now in the Middle East. Where do you think is next? The South China, that whole region, the Indo-Pacific is going to be next. Where everybody there starts going, what the fuck? You're starting a beef with them and you want our soldiers to pay for it? Well, how are you going to make us?
But we have some historical and energetic allies in the region that are going to go right down to the bottom of the sea with us.
Who?
The Australians.
Oh, fuck, you can't trust the Aussies anyway.
Oh, yes, you can. They're part of the crown.
You can't trust them.
Oh, yes, you can.
No, you can't trust them either.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. You can't trust anybody. You can't trust anybody who's going to lock their citizens down.
I think Britain and their former colony.
No, fuck that. They're way too far. First off,
you don't think so?
The Aussies, you can't trust them. The Crown can't trust them. Nobody can trust the Aussies. They're their own people.
So your theory of the case is it's every man for themselves.
They're on their own island. Close. They're on an island. When you're on an island by yourself, when shit hits the fan and it's a crisis, you start to think about the geographical reality. We're on an island.
On this issue,
the Crown way far.
I'm going to tell you something. I disagree with you on this one. I think
you can't trust a country that
I
lock their
think,
citizens down, period. I don't give a fuck about
no, that's
history.
all about compliance. I
Right.
think that the Australians and the New Zealanders
Mm-hmm.
and the British and the Americans
Okay, the Five Eyes.
and the Israelis,
Mm-hmm.
there is some core sharing of resources.
Yeah.
And, it's kind
Until it's on paper. When you're in a fucking boardroom and you're writing it out on paper and you're making fucking calls in your little posh Eurocentric fucking cosmopolitan world, with your little fucking pin on your lapel and everybody's a part of their own international alliance. Yeah, it all sounds good then. Until China pushes that. Russia's prime example. Russia's a prime example right now. Everybody's the Italians, they trust NATO. They trust our protection. Until the Houthis go a little too far, then the Italians go, fuck you people, we're going to put our own fucking response in. Now what? Now, are the Italians acting within the NATO alliance? Or are they saying, in a time of crisis, we got to think about our own interests? That's how the game goes in the real world. None of these people are really experienced in
I think culturally,
in the crisis that's coming.
I think the Japanese, well, they do have a real beatdown from the United States, and they have a memory of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they really fear is a beatdown from the Chinese. There's real cultural hatred there. I mean, I just can report that because I've been there and talked.
We dropped 2 atomic bombs on them.
Yeah, well, they fear the Chinese way more than the United States. They hate the Chinese. They fought many.
I know. They had a big war. They had,
I mean, Korea was just a way to walk back and forth.
I get it. The Japanese and the Chinese got a hard on for it. Okay, throw Japan out. Okay, maybe Japan will
well,
go.
that might anchor Australia, New Zealand, and there is a.
What about the other country? What about the Philippines?
I think Philippines.
What
Vietnam,
about Vietnam?
Vietnam has been standing on 2 boats since Ho Chi Minh.
Okay. What about Korea, South Korea?
I think that
even South Korea. I think North Korea and South Korea play their own.
I think those Koreans are in it like Democrats and Republicans.
There you go. Okay, so when push comes to shove.
I don't know. The Koreans are not reliable.
All right. So why do we keep talking about this? So we plan.
When I say reliable, let me just edit that. What does that mean?
Let me tell you what we plan to do. We plan to hold a gun to the rest of these Indo-Pacific nations and then tell the American people that we're strong and fortified in the region. That's what we plan on doing. That's what our strategy is. That's what our Indo-Pacific strategy is. That these people hate the Chinese just as much as we do.
They love the dollars. As long as that dollar, that's part of the bribery. That's that material hype.
Until the dollar
if the dollar
goes
fails,
bust.
Ultimately it's a currency war. I mean,
That's right.
I mean, really, it's a currency.
I don't want to hear they hate the Chinese.
They hate the Chinese.
All of you people are Chinese to me.
Okay, you can take that position, but having been there dozens of times,
I know you have your own culture.
I have my own view of this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to tell you that the Japanese and Chinese don't trust each other.
Okay. I don't trust my next door neighbor. Doesn't fucking matter. When a fire hits and a tornado hits, you motherfuckers get you get to the lowest point the same way.
The Chinese. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that is probably
when a crisis hits,
reliable American. I don't even like talking this way.
When a crisis
it sounds
hits,
like I'm backing up the security arrangement. I'm not.
When a crisis hits, the Bloods and the Crips, they go seek lowest, strongest shelter like anybody else. And what I'm saying is all of these boardroom sort of military ideas, geopolitics, they all feel and sound good on paper. When the shit really hits the fan, which they're pushing it to, things change quick. That's why they call it the fog of war, the law of unintended consequences. Nobody knows what the fuck's going to go on when China actually goes. Nobody knew what was going to happen when Russia went. Didn't the Victoria Nulands and all these fucking geopolitical military experts tell us that Vladimir Putin was just bluffing? That he wouldn't actually invade these other countries because it wasn't in his interest and he wasn't suicidal? Didn't they say that? They said it before Crimea. Putin goes.
I'm sure.
They say it before Ukraine. Putin goes. Now they're saying Poland. He won't go into Poland. He's just bluffing. But now they're operationalizing. Now
the Poles
are lying.
They're getting ready to get down.
But my point, they're just lying. They're just fucking lying. They're hoping that everybody believes in the lie the same way they do with the fucking money. Then they think Putin and those guys believe in the lie. Now Putin and everybody else, all the rebels to the American hegemony, they're all going, fuck you. We were calling your bluff.
And Tucker, who's going to go over and take an interview, is a traitor, and they don't want to let him back in the country.
Of course.
As if we're not supposed to hear what Putin says.
Of course.
That's going to get 500 million views.
Yeah.
That could be a game changer because, well, let me just say, I don't know where you think about it, how you think about it, but I'll share how I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I paying money to be the muscle to defend the remnant of the British Empire? I just don't get it. The more I think about it, the more it's, and then this guy on X says to me, this was so honest. He goes, our prosperity depends on the post-World War II democratic liberal order.
Who said that?
Some guy on X.
A fucking Republican?
No, he was a Democrat. He had a,
well, of course
his
he thinks
icon
that.
was Franklin Roosevelt.
Of course he thinks that.
Right.
Yeah.
He thinks that.
Suck a dick, buddy. Suck a dick.
It's unbelievable.
Fuck you. The post-World War II democratic liberal order is a fucking scam. It's a scam from the very beginning. There's no rules-based. How can you have a rules-based order and say that the Ukraine's territorial integrity is a rule that we must follow, but America's southern border is arbitrary?
Because it's ours, I guess. I don't. There's no way to.
Fine, but I mean, that would make sense. If you're Italy, okay, and you're in the NATO alliance, and you're fucking Poland, okay, and you go, hey, Ukraine's first priority. America's southern border, you guys figure it out. Distant second. That makes sense because you're fucking European. That makes a lot of sense. You're about a stone's throw from the action. If you're American, how do you go before the American people and justify that the territorial integrity of a rules-based order in a country that was a part of the Russian Federation, the Soviet Union, 70 years ago is more important than our own Mexican border? It's not even logical.
It takes a lot of brainwashing.
Holy cow. So, of course, a Democrat cuck is going to say that the post-World War II democratic liberal order is the stability of our prosperity. Fuck you, motherfucker. These are the people who were pretending to be freedom fighters and anti-establishment war protesters back in the 60s. No, you people were just getting high. You were getting high on fucking mushrooms and marijuana and running around with the hairy pits and the fucking weird ass patchouli that y'all were smoking and drinking and eating.
I say that all the time.
And little what are the instruments that you were rubbing on each other and going off to wild wild country with Rajneesh and getting lost in all this fucking Buddha voodoo Kundalini and shit. Okay, you people were just high as fuck. And you just looked for the biggest thing you could latch on to.
It was a moment of great freedom.
Yeah, you fucking people weren't anti-establishment, anti-war. It's showing. It's showing now. What's the difference between now and then?
You know what? Let me just say, at the time, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
You were not.
Mm-hmm.
There were people that were actually
anti-war. Where are they at now? Dead?
Well, my father's dead. Yeah, a lot of them are dead. But some of them went completely batshit crazy.
So their kids were never really...
Let me give you an example that I think is worth actually talking about.
Okay.
My mother ran the Minnesota campaign for Senator Eugene McCarthy in 1968. He was the anti-war candidate. He was defeated, and his movement was crushed. Anyhow, you know who worked on that campaign with my mother was Chuck Schumer. And I text, it was a tweet, so who cares?
Of course.
But I said to myself, what happened between 68 and 2024 that turned you into such a fucking neocon? Because these people really, some of them were the new left there. And what was the new left? It was an anti-military, industrial complex movement. And it seemed to be an anti-Protestant movement because at that time, that's who was in charge of
It wasn't.
It seemed to be,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it wasn't. It wasn't then. I'm not buying it. Now looking back on it and seeing how the Chuck Schumers turned out, it's pretty clear that it wasn't an anti-military industrial complex movement.
Well, let me tell you what.
It was an anti-American movement.
No, let me tell you
that's what they really were after.
No. Let me tell you what happened. In my opinion, I think a lot of those kids were there because they had no place else to go, as always happens with kids, right? But there was a core of people that really were willing to die, and some of them did die, and many of them went to jail. There was a real movement there.
Who?
Well, like here in Minnesota, there was the Minnesota Nine. The
Mhm.
Minnesota Nine, in fact, one of the, I know personally, a guy named Bill Tilton, they broke into the, whatever the government agency was, and
Mhm.
they burnt all the draft records for all the people in Minnesota to make it impossible for the government to draft Minnesotans. And they all went to jail. I mean, there was actual,
Yeah, so they were dumb.
there was
That was
actual,
dumb.
there was actual civil, well, at the time it was, you have to put things in the context of the history. That kind of acting out against the authorities,
Mhm.
that was new. We were coming out of the 50s, a period of really high uh, compliance. Compliance. I mean, like I said on this, I graduated in high school in 76,
Yeah.
1,104 kids. We didn't have one gay kid in my high school. There was
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
compliance
yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
yeah, I get it. No, I'm
So
saying,
let me
yeah.
finish. I'm going to tell you that there was a lot of sincere, not the whole movement, but there was it's like our movement. You
Yeah.
know what? If you and I call for a protest and we're going to go meet someplace, let's say down at the Fed, how many people show up when we do that now?
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just like our movement.
That's correct.
Yeah, no, our movement isn't exempt.
But in those days, people didn't have, Snapchat and Instagram and video games.
Nobody's saying our movement is exempt. Our movement's not exempt either. But I can tell you one thing: the only mass protest that took place at a real government building that's had any real scrutiny from the government, the corrupt government, is from our movement. January 6th. Dun 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 dun. All the other movements were fugazis. All the other protests, fugazis. All the other, even the Black Lives Matter. Look, you got girls out there, on Instagram in their fucking leggings and their crop tops with their boobs out and their mask on because it's cute. Everybody, it's real cute to be this sort to kind of perpetuate this sort of rebel, freedom fighting kind of precarious character. Everybody wants to be Che Guevara. You motherfuckers couldn't survive in a jungle if you couldn't survive 24 hours in a jungle as a real revolutionary. Let's just put that shit on out there. You motherfuckers can barely go.
You're starting to go reggae on me now.
These motherfuckers can barely go 25 minutes without looking at their cell phone. Okay, you ain't surviving 24 hours in a roofless jungle. You damn sure ain't surviving 3 months that it would take to have a real guerrilla campaign. You fuckers are frosty. You're snowflakes. You're doing cosplay. That's all. This is a theater that they're doing. So, I mean, the MAGA movement is, and don't get me wrong, the MAGA movement's the newest movement, really is. When you really think about the movement itself, the MAGA movement is the newest movement, the newest organization of political awareness and thought. So, this is the movement that needs to be judged with a with a level of understanding.
What's the core of this movement? Is self-governance, correct? Is that not one of the core behaviors that we're asking of men?
I think what it means to be American.
Okay,
to
exercise your citizenship.
Yeah, but I'm saying these war anti-war protest people, even back in the whole scam, they got duped. Motherfuckers thought they were smart. They weren't as smart as they thought they were. It was the Black Panthers. It was Malcolm. It was a lot of these individuals. They thought they were smarter than they really were. They got tricked.
I guess you could say the same thing about the Black liberation movements. Then we're saying the
same thing. That's
what
I'm saying.
Oh, that's really a good point.
But they all got tricked. They all
It's easier
communists.
for me to see it in looking at because I was there and I remember those movements and what happened to those movements. Because when I always say to you, what happened? What happened to these people? Because when I was young, there was no people like that. Those people shoot your ass.
Right.
Right?
Real guerrilla liberation communists.
Now they're wearing dresses.
Absolutely.
And I said to you, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened to Chuck Schumer?
Communism.
But I'm going to tell you what I think happened to a lot of those boomers. We're talking about the boomers, my generation.
Yeah.
When Nixon shut the gold window and they started printing currency, this is the biggest bubble in world history from 72 till today. I mean, there's been these little ups and downs along the way, but if you just look at the whole thing, they just keep pumping gas into this son of a bitch,
right?
And they buy everybody off. Because, for my generation, which is completely unlike yours, everybody had a house, everybody had 3 cars, everybody went out of town every year. Everybody went on an international trip once every 5 years. A lot of people had a lake home. Nobody can afford that now. It's no longer achievable, but it was normal. It was normal. A middle class family could have a house and a lake home in a nice neighborhood, and mama didn't even have to work.
And that's what I'm saying. They promised material prosperity.
No, that's a good point.
Through the post-World War II Democratic
it's
Liberal
breaking
Order.
down.
They can't provide, they can't deliver on the prosperity.
Maybe they don't have to. Maybe their idea is now that they're going to start to limit our freedom of movement.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe
they
grand
could,
plan.
if you go with the argument that they can print anything they
want to.
want
That's the grand plan.
So what they're saying is, you know what? We gave you a taste, and fuck off. Back into your fucking box. That's what you're saying they're saying.
The grand plan is, we know we cannot deliver on the promises we made.
No, I don't agree. That flies in the face of your premise. Your premise is they can print anything.
No.
They're saying we're not
no.
going to deliver.
They can't. No. They can't deliver.
Why?
Because there's an aspect of material prosperity that can never be. There's a thirst there that can never be quenched.
Oh, that's different. Now we're getting to the
demand
side. Oh, now we're not on the supply side. We're on the demand side.
They know they can't deliver.
I get you.
They can't deliver. That when the technology doesn't meet the requirement, they're going to turn the technology on these people. That's it. It's that simple. That's what Yuval Noah Harari's saying. You don't like them. The video games and the dope isn't good enough for you. Okay, well, how do you like totalitarianism? I think you'll take the
a
dope
palliative, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what they're showing. It's not even hidden. This is what they're trying to do to stopgap the global situation right now. They're trying to tell Bahrain and Abu Dhabi and the Saudis and all these other, Arab nations, hey, you like the money better than you like the war, don't you? He grossly underestimated the Muslims. See, we here in America, we like to think of the Muslims as some, unsophisticated, uneducated, savage bunch of people, but then we let them in all of our academic institutions in Britain. Yeah, you trained these motherfuckers. Okay, these motherfuckers went to Oxford. So they're not as uneducated as you think. And that's why when you go to have some all-out, knockdown, drag-out public debate about Israel and Palestine, you have these Arab motherfuckers showing up with British accents to argue the point on behalf of Palestine because you trained them.
They do speak lovely, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They're really
yes, they do, don't they?
Quite British, aren't they?
They're very British.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and then they talk about white supremacy. But fuck you people. You fucking people, I fuck off.
That's a spit on the floor T-shirt.
Yeah, oh, my goodness.
That's hilarious.
White supremacy. It was what the fuck you're talking with a British accent, motherfucker. I talk like a black man from a blue-collar community who has a little bit of ebonics to my English. You'd speak like you just sat on a fucking dildo in the middle of Oxford,
Square.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. And so, but my point is.
And all their fighter pilots were trained with the Royal Air Force.
Yeah, absolutely. But
or at West Point.
We did train them.
That's correct.
We trained them. And what we're trying to do now is tell them, hey, you like them. Look all the education. You were taught that you like that. What about the idea, and this is one of those wild conspiracy theories you could say, but there's a theory out there that Islam was created by the Catholic Church.
Okay.
It's believed, some people believe, that Muhammad was taught by Augustinian priests.
Well, it's definitely a reaction to Catholicism.
And that there's a reason why.
There's a relationship there for sure.
You never hear Islamic leaders, you never hear any of these Arab Islamic states or Muslim countries or Muslim leaders really denounce Rome. You never hear them talk about Rome. You never hear them talk about Catholicism with any real fervor. I don't know if there's anything to it. It's just something that was brought to my attention. And I thought
they seem rather focused on the Jews.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Maybe they know something we don't know.
hey, I don't know what the fuck they know. I think all these people are lying to themselves. They're full of shit. They want to wrap themselves in God to justify all their wicked ways. I think it's all a bunch of horse shit, to be honest. But my point again, we are trying to convince these people right now that they like the money better than they like war. We're grossly underestimating these individuals. We think that they're insufficient.
This is
These
like the
people are willing to
Japanese.
die.
No, this is like this
These
is
people are willing to die.
well, even the leadership. Okay, you made a very good point. I thought about Japan that we really couldn't trust them when the shit really hits the fan. And I took the other side because I've been there, and that's my opinion. But within the context of the Middle East, which is really the place where this is really cracking off right now.
Yeah.
American citizens really, it's like the Ukraine, okay? Both of them. It's like China. All three of them were the muscle defending the British colonial empire. This is the blowback out of what the British did to extract wealth out of the entire world. And we weren't even in on that wealth. We have no idea how much money I personally, I don't want to say we, I have no idea how much money they have. But in studying what they took, oh shit, we have no idea how much they consider. I think they're acting poor.
Who?
The British. I think they got so much.
The British are acting poor.
Yeah, they're
King
acting
Charles
poor.
running around with a fucking $1 trillion crown.
I know, but they play the poor boy all the time. You Americans go first.
Who believes that? That's the part of the problem right there. Then you got the Nick Fuentes and the Stu Peters types out there saying that we're European.
But let me
we're
go
not
back.
Fucking European.
In the Middle East. Well, we are European.
We're
our
not.
Elites are. No, our elites are.
They're not.
Our elites
They're not
have
European.
bought in to a European,
but they're not European
intellectual
yes,
tradition.
They are. That's my point.
And in their heads, in the ideas in their heads. Now, are they genetically European? No, they have holdovers. They don't live there. But what they think.
What the fuck is genetically European mean?
I don't know. know.
What the fuck does that even mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean shit.
But the thinking in their head is European, and in fact, it's British. But
yes, it is.
I want to go back because
But that's not Stu Peters.
I want to tell.
Wait a second. Stu Peters. Wait a second. They're talking about the elites. We're not talking about fucking Mitt Romney here. Okay. We're not talking about George Bush, 13th cousin to the Queen type shit. We're talking about fucking Stu Peters, Nick Fuentes, who comes from a little fucking suburb outside the outskirts of Chicago's greater metropolitan area.
Have you met either of these two people?
I never met them. But
my point is, they exist?
My point is, they're not European. So what are they talking about? This country's European roots? And first off, what kind of misrepresentation is it of history to look at the culmination of the Westphalian nation state as a European creation, as a European? Every empire that rose and fell before the British Empire contributed to the knowledge of how to successfully or unsuccessfully create and construct the framework of a civilization or of a society or of a country or of a nation or of a nation state. All of the trappings and failings and ups and downs of all of these empires' histories went into that knowledge. You think that the you think that the British, when they went to construct the Commonwealth, they looked at the Chinese Empire or the Roman Empire or the Ottoman Empire or the Persian Empire or the Babylonian Empire and say, hell, we're not going to use that knowledge. We're not going to use any of that knowledge around those, empirical time periods because, hey, they're Babylonian. No, they took what was. So even European history at its height, the Egyptians, okay, the Greeks, who could very loosely be called European in the first place. Fucking Greeks aren't European. They're Mediterranean.
I agree with your
point. The Italians
are
Mediterranean.
The point you're making is that the idea
the Turks are Mediterranean.
Developed over
They're not
time,
European.
And the English codified.
Yes.
But my point, let me just say it's
so
also,
even to say that America, this is what I'm saying, to say that America's founding is European and is a bullshit story.
Okay, that's a
It's
great
bullshit.
You can sit on that street corner and say that. I think that's a very good thing to say.
And most importantly of all in that analysis, let's be clear. The politics aside, the most influential thing in European history was a Western Asiatic tribal faith. So, I mean, this whole Europe is, this whole fixation with Europe is kind of bullshit to begin with.
What you're
Because the
saying
most
is
important
the
thing is
cultural-
Christianity is Asian.
You're saying
Christianity is Asian
you're
religion.
saying cultural diffusion through time, evolution of
Christianity,
thought.
and is it even Asian? I mean, do people think it's by accident that the most influential religion, the most influential spiritual practice in the history of the world came from the very center of the fucking world? Do people think that's by accident that Jesus was born in Nazareth in Israel, smack dab in the middle of the world? Do people really think that's by? I mean, how fucking stupid, how daft do you have to be to think that's an accident? So that the religion would spread out to every corner of the world from the center. I mean, it's just not. I mean, if you drew it up on a map, the
It'd be
spread of
perfect.
Christianity,
It's perfect, isn't
it's
it?
absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But so is Christianity? So if Christianity is not a European religion, then America's founding is not a European construction. It's a Christian one.
Well, that's a very interesting way to look at it.
I mean, please, Stu Peters, step up to the fucking mic, buddy. Are you a Christian or are you a European? Because there is no both. And I think people in this movement got that fucking confused. Are you a Christian or are you a European? There's one lineage that goes back way further than the other. And a lot of people say they're Christians. Don't understand that. They don't get that. Your timeline of your European heritage where your little mutt races fought a war back and forth, same in Africa, same in the Middle East, same in the Arab world, same in the Southeast Asia. Your little history that goes back far enough to these little geopolitical, academic, scholastic, little, Britannic, that shit is this small compared to God's history. If you're a Christian. Now, if you're a fucking Satanist or a Luciferian, then you really don't believe that God is an eternal God. So you wouldn't believe that God's history, that your Christian identity goes back well before any European, line drawing that happened. And I'm not saying that borders don't matter, obviously, but what I'm saying is these people are fixated on this European identity.
The genetics instead of the faith. Is that what you're saying?
Well, why are we even talking about America? Why was it ever thought that America, where did we get this narrative that America is because this is the narrative. Now, maybe you're not understanding or seeing it, but this is their narrative. That the Marxists and the communists, which was actually a European ideology, by the way, not a Western Asian one, okay? It didn't come from Israel. Some people would say Zionism kind of, but no, not really. Marxism.
No, these are European ideas.
These are European ideas.
These are anti-church
absolutely,
ideas.
absolutely.
Constructed to destroy.
So if you
the
really
very
want to
faith
take
you're
credit for
talking
something as Europeans,
you take credit for Bolshevism and Marxism.
take credit for fucking Marxism. Yeah. Even if it's the Jews from in Europe. See, there's nationality, then there's ethnicity.
I call these people Jews because we're
regardless. If you call yourself a Jew, then we call you what you call you. If you call yourself a Jew, then you call like a black man.
Well, then I can call them out, okay?
Of course you can. You have the right to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Same way I call the black bourgeoisie.
Because I'm not putting up with this anymore.
But my point is, if you're going to take credit on a European basis,
you take credit for Marxism.
Yes.
And Nazism.
Yes.
And they go together like hand in glove.
Okay.
Because wherever you find a communist, you'll find a fascist.
Okay.
So when I watch on X the left ripping up a movement as being fascist, I think to myself,
you people are fascists.
You must be communists. No, they're the same people.
They're the same people.
That's correct.
No, and that's what I'm getting at is this, the lie we're telling ourselves becomes so
we
obvious.
got two intellectual movements that come out of the Middle East through Europe.
Mm-hmm.
We got a faith movement and an anti-faith movement, and it's time to throw down.
Yes.
That's it.
No, it's not a throwdown. This is what the Bible prophesied. The Christians are few and far between. That's the scary part. That's the part people don't get yet. They don't want to accept. They want to live in this fictitious narrative where all these people who say they're Christians are Christians.
You know, I had a woman say to me on X.
They're not.
Recently, very recently, this week, when they come to get you, are they going to come to get you as a Jew or a Christian? And I thought, whoa. And then a great answer came to me. And the answer was, I'll go as a Jew who knows Christ. And there was no retort, because there's no retort to that.
Somebody said that to you on X?
Uh-huh.
What a stupid fucking thing to even say. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the bullshit. This is the shit I don't tolerate. And this is part of the reason why they won't have me on certain shows. They won't, this is why they won't give me the puppet money. This is why this is it. This is the because I don't play those fucking games. Because I know that, well, first off, they're stupid. I know that you people think you're real fucking smart and clever, and you've been brainwashed to think you're smart and clever.
That's so horrible for me because I'm old enough to remember smart.
They're not
I'm
clever
talking
at all.
about,
They're not smart.
people like that I'm following, like Bill Crystal.
Yeah, dumbass.
Oh my God, he's terrible.
Mealy-mouthed, overeducated, underintelligent motherfucker.
Tribe. Harvard law professor. Some of the stuff that he says is so bad.
The people who go to Harvard
Ann
are
Applebaum,
dumb.
she's writing at the Post.
If you went to an Ivy League school,
bad.
I don't trust you.
Well,
there are some exceptions.
What if you drop out?
There are some exceptions.
You drop out.
There's
you
some
don't like it.
there's some exceptions. Jeff Quadness went to Ivy League school. I think where'd Steve go?
I went to the U.S. Military Academy.
Yeah, he went to military academy.
Yeah.
I like those guys a bit more. And there are some exceptions. But on face value, when you throw the Harvard thing, look, they're the people who taught these people this shit. I mean, Harvard gets its intellectual and academic tradition from Europe.
Gosh, Rasmussen,
and Europe are the ones who brought Darwinism and this whole genetic theory.
Rasmussen just determined, everybody can go look this up. I think I saw it on Zero Hedge. There's actually a cohort, an identifiable cohort that they polled that were these elites. They called it the Dirty Dozen. It's, Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton, Columbia. Our top, those graduates live in zip codes with more than 10,000 people. They trust the government. Like 72% love the government. They believe that there's too much freedom, not too little. Like if you poll you and me, the regular, I want more freedom. Give me more freedom.
Yeah.
Nope, we got too much. They want to take it away. These are the people that believe that we shouldn't have gas stoves, that they believe, I think like almost 60% of them believe that there should only be mandatory air travel, no more discretionary air travel. I mean, these are the people. But because they've all...
The Ivy Leaguers?
Yes. And because they all graduated from those law schools and those medical schools, they're controlling the institutions of power, and they're tiny in number. Tiny. They're tiny in number, but they're mighty in their control of the way we think about things.
Well, they're not tiny in number, because you can look.
There's 1 million attorneys in the country. That's still tiny.
What I'm saying is they're not.
Million.
Well, look, you're only as powerful or weak as the people who are willing to follow you. And no matter how tiny they are in number, there's a broad populace of people who are willing to follow that expertise.
They control the media and Hollywood.
So I guess they're many in number.
Well, they're powerful in thought, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all that counts?
They must have learned it from the Babylonians.
Hey, I know who the fuck they learned
Well, I'm
from.
just saying, who gets really rich is not the guy that makes it up. It's the guy that organizes it.
Yeah.
You can have an inventor. An inventor doesn't really care about money, he cares about inventing. And some bitch comes around and buys it and organizes it. That's what the British did. The British created an academic tradition of scholars that studied how this worked. I was thinking about this immigration. I want to get back to the Middle East.
Yeah, go ahead.
Immigration. Immigration has been fucking up countries since forever. Well, one of the greatest immigrant groups in world history is the Jews. They were run out of their country. Well, somebody said, what happens to these countries when these groups come in? I think the first successful open border incursion that destroyed a polity was the creation of Israel.
Say it again?
Israel. Jews came from all over the world and moved to Israel.
Right.
And that overthrew the indigenous population and political structure. It was a migration of an open border. They didn't figure out to close their border until it was too late because the British opened their border. The British did it. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They had studied it. They have Oxford. What do you think you do when you're a historian? You write a book about something to make a bunch of money, but what you really do is figure out how to fuck things up for the military. They have a whole bench of people just studying how things went wrong.
Funded by the military.
They study how things went wrong in the past and how it got fixed so they can do it now.
Alfred John McKinder.
It's just unbelievable.
This is why they all quote, all of our military generals quote Sun Tzu. So is our culture really European, or is it Eastern Asian? If your military generals still go by the laws of Sun Tzu, are those European military strategies? And I know Napoleon's in there, and it's accumulation of knowledge is what I'm saying.
I really like what you're saying, because I say the same thing and have it come back at me like this, because we never talked about this. On my podcast, I'm always trying to go through the history and see how, I did a podcast with had James Brown, Michael Jackson, and I said, James Brown, no, look at how James Brown moves. Now look at how Michael Jackson moves.
Oh, he wanted to be James Brown.
And nobody remembers James Brown, and everybody remembers Michael Jackson. But what Michael Jackson was is he had the ability to organize it and get it out to the mass audience for some reason, which we could delve into, right?
Who don't remember James Brown?
Well, I'm telling you, most of my cohort don't remember him. Most of the old boomers don't remember James Brown. They don't.
Stop.
They didn't know him in the first place.
Stop. James Brown?
I'm just telling you, he's going away.
Oh, that's the problem with your generation right there.
Well, it's the problem with culture, generally speaking.
No, I mean more specifically, the fact that the boomers have lost sight of James Brown might be the single
greatest. Or how about Bob Marley or any of these?
No. James Brown is different.
But Brown, and then I play
the funk, the soul, the funk. If you don't know James Brown, that's part of the problem. That's a big part of the problem.
But then I put on Michael Jackson. Then I put on this white kid whose name I don't remember, who was really big on Instagram. And this motherfucker is soulful. I mean, like really, and I said, where did this come from?
Who, Teddy Swims?
I don't know his name. I'm sorry, but we'll put him up maybe next time we do Hebrews. He's fantastic. He can sing like Bill Withers he's better at Bill Withers than Bill Withers. He's that soulful. And but he's like the most not cool looking dude you could imagine. And I said on the show, that's cultural diffusion over time. There's no way in 1946 a guy that looked like that could have sang like that. There was just too much gap in the culture. The culture is evolving, moving forward. And I think that's a really fantastic point.
Yeah, but that and all that being said, that doesn't mean we should lose sight of our American identity. And that's probably what we should talk about next is we're going into a war with people who have a profound sense of identity. The Chinese have a profound sense of identity. The Russians have a profound sense of identity.
So do the Arabs.
The Chinese have a profound sense of ethno-national identity. The Russians, in this particular scenario, they have a profound sense of territorial and geographical identity. They believe in Russia as a physical place. And you hear Putin talk about that all the time. The Russian people must always have a place to call home that is...
They're tied to the earth.
Territorial Russia.
Their identity is tied to the earth.
And we don't even believe in a southern border. And not only that, we believe it's more important to argue about physical appearance and the color of our skin, still to this day. And that'll be our downfall. Because the Russians are laughing at it. The Russians going, white and black. We don't give a fuck about white and black. We're Russian. The Chinese are going white and black. All you people are beneath us. We're Chinese. And we're sitting here, and we have not yet bought into the idea, which is why I like Steve, because Steve is one of the unicorns on our side of the movement that's really tried to draw this line and bring some logical thought and maturity to the situation. Which is why the Nick Fuentes and some of them behind closed doors say that, Steve Bannon is a traitor because he has too many Negroes on his show, right? Like me.
And Jews.
Yeah, well, Negroes. No, they ain't worry about that. Look, they don't give a fuck about that shit.
Oh, Stu Peters is 24 hours a day on the Jews.
But that's not their gripe on Steve.
Oh, on Steve. Okay.
It's the same reason they would vote for Donald Trump. How could you be Nick Fuentes and support Donald Trump? Donald Trump has tons of Jews around him. They don't give a fuck about that. They got a problem with black people. They really do. And I get, they could wrap it and cloak it how they want to. But
sounds like a Hebrews episode.
Yeah, but when I'm on Gab, I see what they're saying. They never say it to you. Where are these people? I just want to know where are you? Where do you actually exist on the internet?
Who's paying you to say this
pussy.
shit?
But they're just pussy. Because I don't ever get any of the, I don't ever get no white. I would actually respect it more if some white folks would come up to me in person and just say, hey, call me the N-word. I would actually be like, oh, okay, you guys actually exist.
You're serious about this.
Yeah, there you go. Now we can talk. Good, I like that. But I never get that. And even more, I don't know people who do. I don't know any black people who have a community message board on Black Twitter, and they're like, all of their complaints about these white, white supremacists are very what are they, hyperbolic. They're very snowflakey. Like, oh, it's a microaggression of white supremacy. Their story is never like, guy came up to me
with a club
with 10 other white guys, and they all had runes, and they were like deaf to Negroes and Jews. That's never the story. It's never the story. And so it's just, again, where are these people? They're not real people, but they have big followings.
Maybe.
No, they do. Oh, no, they do. What's the difference between, when you get into an AI generation, what's the difference between a following being real and a following being
That's
fake?
what I'm saying.
We don't know.
We don't know.
It's real enough. Real enough where we're all
There could be a million
looking.
people watching this show, and we don't know it.
It's real enough. Their following is real enough, even if it's fabricated. It's real enough to make a difference. It's real enough for the Washington Post.
Well, it's not up for us
to call me
say
and ask me about the man.
We don't know how many people are necessary.
No, you know, because these people.
No.
These people have rallies. Nick Fuentes has rallies. These people are coming.
No, I'm saying we don't know in our movement how many people we need here to coalesce around what we're doing.
Right.
To change the arc of history.
Right. Which is why we're doing it.
And that's why we're doing it.
And again,
yep.
These people, to me, are not real people, even if they're real people. Even if they're real people with real people following them, their ideas aren't real.
Their ideas aren't refined.
No, they're not. They're not.
They're
when
not
I say
correct.
They're not real,
saying, no, you're drawing out something.
What I'm saying they're not real is I'm saying when you talk about God's truth,
they're not right.
They're not real.
Okay.
There is no fucking race. There is no race when you're Christian. There just is no race.
So you're saying they have to choose between being followers of Christ or followers of a Darwinist.
They're following a black man. But Jesus Christ was black. They're following a black man.
Oh, you're going to piss some people off now.
Okay. I mean, where did he live? How was he described?
He was definitely tan.
How was he described?
As a dark man.
As a dark man.
Yeah.
I mean, he was described as a dark man. It's not a conspiracy theory. There are early drawings of him from the earliest remnants of Christianity. I mean, if you go south, what are we talking about? The man was born. The only thing that makes the Middle East and Israel and the Arab world, the Middle East, is them building the Suez Canal. If they didn't manufacture and actually go in and build the Suez Canal ex post facto after Christ lived, it'd all be Africa. I mean, what are we talking about? And in Africa,
when you say who's they?
The crown.
The crown, and you know
they just built the Suez Canal. That wasn't there.
And the canal was opened in 1869.
And it separated what?
It separated the Middle East from Africa.
There you go.
Across.
You think that was
120 miles?
You think that wasn't an effort to try and separate the identity, to justify social Darwinism, and say that Jesus wasn't closely related to African people?
I've never been on that street corner before. I've been on the street corner that says these motherfuckers were criminals and robbing the piss out of China and India.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, coal-fired ships. And so if you had to go around the whole of Africa, it was a lot cheaper to dig a hole and have one coal station at the port of Aden because they wanted to get that fucking booty back over there. And then pirates need to get back over there as fast as possible.
There's always a few ways to skin a cat.
I'm not saying that the spiritual part of what you're saying is not true. I haven't thought about it. I've been focused on how interested these people were on getting from the bank back to the hideout.
Okay, but even the people in India. Let's talk about India. India is a nation, is a place of people who feel a very deep sense of their own ethnic identity, their own ethno-national identity. The Indian people, you could say, are their own race of people. They're not Asian. They're not Middle Eastern. They're Indian. I mean, the populations, once you cross over 1 billion people, you're your own race of people anyway.
You're your own group.
whether you deem it so or not. I mean, just by the sheer number. Okay. But they also look very different. They look very different than other groups. So where do they want to go with this? Where do they want to go with this genetic thing? I mean, we're going nowhere. We're just going in circles. And everybody who doesn't realize we're going in circles, you're a fucking moron. If I hear you talking this white, black, European, African, and I'm seeing it now. Because, you see a black guy runs in and steals fucking 12 cell phones. And in the comments you go, oh, well, usual suspect. Usual suspect? I said it before, I'll say it again. You fucking cuck motherfuckers you cuck-servative motherfuckers think that the entirety of black people in this whole country could steal as much as the crown is stolen? Do you think that I could get every fucking black person together from here all the way back to the days of slavery, and we couldn't steal 1/10 of what the fucking mealy-mouthed Ivy League European government is stolen from you every single day? The debt's going up a fucking $1 million a second.
That's a very good point. What you're saying is
the cell phones cost $3 to make.
People are being used as a diversion so that no one really looks at the real stealing. Like when half the weapons disappear, $2 trillion. So we're going to go look at this young black man who got caught
stealing a leather Gucci bag from Nordstrom.
And then Alpha News is going to stick his face right up there.
This man's stealing look. This is the crazy part of it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
The markup on the goods that black people are depicted. Now, don't get me wrong. I get that there's a lawlessness taking root. Okay, and I got a problem with that. Like a big problem with it. Like when I see young black people, young teens or young black folks, and they even got that look, that sort of lawless look. And there is a look. I mean, there is a sort of hoodlum look. Now they're trying to make it high fashion to be hoodlum. So there's something to say about that too. That's all part of the same kind of brainwashing. And all of the orbits are happening at once. Okay. It's not one thing happening over here and then one thing over here. It's all happening at once. There is an effort to proliferate criminality in the black community so they can justify
more control.
Stealing it. This is what Ice Cube said just when he was on Bill Maher. He said that the CIA, that what happened in the music industry and with gangster rap in the 1990s was not by accident. That the CIA and Bill Maher with his cuck-servative ass, he's another neocon cuck-servative. What he said was, well, you really think? I mean, they didn't make the music.
This is so stupid. He's talking to one of the foundational timbers of
gangster rap, of the whole genre.
Right. And this guy, I don't even listen to it.
You're talking about one guy you're talking about one guy who created gangster rap, who helped create gangster rap. And you're talking to another guy who ends up sniffing the underwear of video vixens who suck rappers off for a living. Okay. That's Bill Maher. I don't know if you know, he was dating Superhead. Her nickname's Superhead for a reason. I'm serious. This is the truth. This ain't the fictitious world where the politics is a nice, fun, the cultural conversations are nice, fun, and couth. This is the reality. Bill Maher was running around hand in hand in public with a woman who sucked more cock on the record than is manageable for your average woman. It's not even manageable. She's a superstar in her own regard in this aspect.
She was a virtuoso.
Yeah, she's an expert. Okay. This is Bill Maher's flavor. Not even he was, having sex with her. That's one thing. I mean, Donald Trump had sex with Stormy Daniels. I get it. How a man does his thing, he does his thing. I'm not saying you were walking around in public with her. Donald Trump's got the good decency and pride not to walk around in public with Stormy. And I like that. I respect that. See, that's why they should have me on the fucking campaign talking, because we'd be able to sort out these cuck-servatives from these real MAGA patriots. And we'll be able to find the people who we need as warriors, and the people who are still thinly tied to this bullshit theater of civility.
Oh, they're not thinly tied.
They're fully tied.
They're the creators of it.
But the security of it is so thin. It's not even a real tie.
I don't
know. Think it's even a real tie.
Oh, they're pretty tied.
They're out there floating. They're one financial problem away from being in their own bankruptcy. So the tie that they're not getting out of the deal what they think they're getting out of it. They're living in the security isn't what they think it is. The material prosperity isn't what they think it is. They think it's because they're white. They think it's because they're European. That's my point. You're not even getting out of the deal what they're promising you. Can't you see it? That's what Steve is telling them. You think you're different than the black guy and the Hispanic working guy down the street? All three of you are getting scammed. You don't have the security that they're promising you, and then they're telling you to pay for the lie. You got to be a cuck. That is what I mean when I say a cuck. You're paying to watch the government fuck you. You're paying for it. And then you'll come up with all these excuses and reasons why to justify, oh, well, we can't get together with the black folks or the Hispanics because, they're uneducated or they're uncivil or they don't believe in the rule of law or they don't believe in the Constitution or they don't believe in. Give me a fucking break. No, you don't believe in the rule of law and the Constitution. You don't believe in what it means to be American. You don't believe that Christianity had a bigger impact on the American identity than European philosophy, European secular post-Enlightenment philosophy. You don't believe it. Don't project it on me. I believe in what it means to be American. I believe in a nation of shopkeepers with the Second Amendment. How did all these states like Minnesota or anywhere, how did all these GOP parties stand to let the gun laws get to where they are in the first place? They don't even really believe in having the right to own a gun and protecting themselves. They really don't believe in it. That's the problem with the movement. The problem, and it's not, is it MAGA or Rhino? It's not that. Do you understand what the identity really is? And it's going to matter now because we're going up against some countries who have a way more profound sense of identity than we do.
Okay, let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. What I think I'm hearing is Americans need to rediscover what it is to be an American because the enemies that we face, real enemies, know exactly who they are and exactly what they want to achieve.
Oh, for sure.
And we're lost in a fucking haze, believing in security and materialism that's not even working.
And bickering.
With each other over
we got a bicker culture. We got a bunch of bitches. No, serious. They may not like that. Maybe that makes me unqualified to be a United States senator.
No,
the Senate and the House and all these political. I mean, look at what was the kid's name? The kid's name who was a fucking court jester sideshow. They just kicked him out of the Congress.
Santos.
It's Santos. I mean, look at AOC and Ilhan. I mean, but not just look at Kinzinger. Look at Mitt Romney saying that MAGA's to blame for the border. These people they're like high school girls. You expect that kind of behavior from junior high girls.
That's why I started out the podcast by saying I'm getting kind of in a good mood because the lies are getting ridiculous. They're just getting fucking ridiculous.
It's out of control.
But when the lies get so big, this is how the Soviet Union came down. That's why there was revolutionary change there because the lies got so big to maintain the control that even the most conservative of the group started to say,
come on. But the one between the racial one is really the one that's why I've been going off on this during this episode, because it's very clear to me now that the racial tension in the country is the sole source, the go-to line, the go-to divide to keep us suppressed, to keep us enslaved in this country.
Can I tell you what's going on the Republican side?
Mm-hmm.
We have, when I say this, I just get this trepidation. But, there was this Ron DeSantis movement.
Yeah.
And they spent a lot of money. And they're still spending money to have this army of influencers. And then there's the MAGA folks. And these people smashed into each other like a medieval movie. And, of course, Trump prevailed and DeSantis went away. The battle in that is not racial. It's man and woman. It's really about a rejection of Trump on a sexual political reason. And it's quite powerful, and it's potent as hell. I've never seen anything quite like it. I find it a little bit difficult to speak about because what I'm really saying is that this conservative movement, because they say Donald Trump is not a conservative and he's not a good man because of X, Y, and Z. But Ron DeSantis is a true conservative, and he's a good man because he's married. And it's just this really kind of intense.
Like the married men in our country don't account for a huge number of the people that are a part of the porn proliferation. It's mostly married men. See, but if you've never been down to the part of town where they get money walking out on the street, you wouldn't know that the majority of the people who come to buy sex are married men. Yeah. See, you're still living in an illusion. That's why you need some real street motherfuckers with dirt under their fingernails to lead you people. Because you're still living in a fucking fairy tale, and I'm not interested in it. World War III, we're going to send our boys now. We're going to send our little Royce. We're going to have a draft because we got to defend 3 different fucking outposts on the Eurasian landmass. And I'm going to sit next to you people and act like you're telling halfway. Fuck you people. Take your mealy-mouthed, fucking posh, uppity, yuppie-ass, fucking hyper-educated, politicized, and shove it right up your motherfucking ass. If we're going to die, I'd rather die living in reality. I'm not going to die next to you putting on some fucking fake smile where you're acting like, like, oh, well, Ron DeSantis is fucking, he's a fucking neocon. Knights of Malta, secret society, fuckhead. That's why he acts the way he does. He acts like he's a part of some weird fraternity. He does. Maybe people haven't been to college. I went to University of Minnesota. The boys who were down at the frats, I mean the Greek frats, not the secret society frats, just the Greek frats. All those motherfuckers acted weird. They were weird as fuck. And what do y'all do in that frat? I mean, yeah, sure, there's the girls who come to the frat house, and we got that whole motif, right? That's well depicted in American pornography. But what happens when the girls aren't there? You guys are real friendly, see? And it's strange. And we want to act like that doesn't exist. Like
Yeah, why is that? Why?
Your boy was a part of a Greek fraternity. A Greek fraternity that celebrates Roman Greek paganism. But he's a consummate conservative Christian. Fuck you people. You must think we're stupid. See, you can lie to yourself and get yourself to you can live in that lie. But as soon as you start thinking I have to live in that lie with you, I just tell you to fuck. And that's why most of my time spent on social media is telling a lot of these people to fuck right off. Because I don't give a fuck about some audience or some following or some constituency based on all of these loose lies. Fuck you people. I'd rather go at it alone. When you get around to wanting to believe the truth,
you're going to be alone
come on.
anyhow. So what the hell's the
There
difference?
you go. Yeah. When you get around to wanting to listen to the truth, come on over.
Here's the deal. From my perspective, you either walk by faith or you walk by sight.
Yeah.
Just that simple.
Yeah.
And the number of people that really have given over to faith really as a lifetime becoming, it's getting down to a small group of people.
Do I have that right? Isn't the whole Greek fraternity, Greek alphabet thing based on Greek mythology? It's not Greek Orthodox Christianity, that's for sure.
I don't know. I always thought they were weird too. But the Order of Malta is a kind of a spooky Catholic, become Masonic kind of a...
Yeah, it's Masonry. It's Freemasonry.
It's Freemasonry.
100%.
So if you
the
join
Knights
that,
of Malta,
it's one of the 4 secret societies at Yale. You don't get to join. You have to be asked. And that's very interesting because you can say fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get tapped and you say, oh, please let me get incorporated into this, you got an agenda.
Yeah.
This is no different than getting a PhD, only it's squared, right? You're taking an allegiance to a business model that oppresses and exploits billions of people and convinces them that it doesn't do it. It's evil and kind of and when you get hip to it, when you see it clearly and you see it everywhere, there's another choice. First, you got to have the choice to see it because most people don't want to go there.
Right.
Then when you see it, you have another choice. Are you willing to give up your life for it? Tell them the truth about it. That's why I didn't talk too much today. You're getting awfully good at this stuff.
I'm getting pissed.
You know what it is?
I'm fucking pissed.
It's not you. It's the timing.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with me.
It's the timing. The words are right now because it's right fucking now.
And you know what pisses me off the most? This fucking Joe Frazier character that popped up.
Popped up out of nowhere. Popped up out of the bowels of the Minnesota GOP.
Popped up out of the bowels of fucking Langley, of military intelligence. That's who these people are. And they think they're so slick. And how stupid do these fucking Republicans have to be to see these neocons pop up out of under these fucking rocks and
They're in on it.
Holy,
that's all there is to it.
Holy cow. It's like, it's so obvious. No, I mean, it's really obvious to a level where it's like laughable and very indictable of the people who participate.
You know what, Royce? We talked about this a year ago. It's the timing. We're at war. See, now
the guy has the audacity.
Now, these people, do we really need more people from the military to dominate our politics?
How do you proudly tout your service in 2 disgraced wars? Let's just put that on the table.
What were the 2 wars? I didn't read it.
Iraq and Afghanistan.
Ah, okay, great.
How do you proudly tout your service in 2 disgraced wars? And look, I got a friend, Mike the Marine Richmond, who's a great dude, and he was a Marine. I mean, he's a killer, real killer. He served real tour, really. He wasn't military intelligence. Okay, he's a gunner, right? He done seen shit. He done been there when the bodies are exploding. He done felt the real ramification from it. I didn't have to be there. I know what he did, and I know what the implications of it are. I didn't have to be there myself. He's a hitter. Do you think he's running around leading conversations with I served in Iraq? Now don't get me, he's a fighter. He went back to give more blood into to the fight game and to being a warrior. Because that's who he is. He's a warrior. He can't help it. But if I'm coming into politics where I want to talk about being a United States senator, a governing body that voted for discretionary spending and fast and loose constitutional provisions to allow us to go into 2 unconstitutional and disgraced wars, and I lead with that? What the fuck am I saying to the people who are going to vote for me? I'm saying you motherfuckers are dumb. You're stupid. I'm intelligent. I'm military intelligent. You're fucking stupid. You're so caught up in the false identity of American citizenship that you'll let me bring my service up here as a credentialization when we stole the money from you to go perpetuate the wars. And we're planning to do it again. I'm the same guy today that did it to you.
Vote me in.
30 years ago.
Right.
I'm going to run it on you again.
It's the long con.
And I'm going to send your sons. I'm going to send our boys.
And they're patriotic.
I'm going to send our sons and daughters. I'm going to send the Mike Marine Richmonds to a war he never needed to be in. Do we appreciate his service? Yeah, but I'm more saddened that he had to go in the first place. Now looking back on it, we get so caught up in the glory of making the sacrifice and putting on the uniform, we forget to ask the question, did he ever really need to go?
That's why they send young men to fight wars.
If anybody out there is still mistaken about us needing to go to Iraq or Afghanistan, the verdict is in. We didn't need to go to Iraq. We didn't need to go to Afghanistan. We went to Afghanistan, and where we ended up finding Osama, I remember the days after 9/11, we were in discussions with the Pakistani government, who at the time was then just in the early stages of developing nuclear weapons. And there was a huge resistance from the international community to allow Pakistan to have nuclear weapons. Now they're well off in having nuclear weapons, which will be a problem in the future for India and the rest in the region. But that was the discussion then, that Pakistan was going to cooperate with us because they were already under scrutiny in their pursuit of nuclear weapons. But we believed them. Dick Cheney, Rumsfeld, all these people got up and were asked by the American media, back when it still had a small iota of integrity. They were asked by the American media, are we worried about Pakistan? Yeah, well, we of course we have to be concerned about our relationship with Pakistan. It's very fragile and whatnot, and we're working with them to make sure that the nuclear thing is going as according to the rules and regulations and expectations of the international community. But we're going to tap on them to help us with this problem. Where the fuck did they end up finding Osama bin Laden?
Right by their major military training academy. Right down the block.
I digress.
Right down the block.
I digress.
That's another British...
military intelligence.
That's another British blowback area over there,
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say sending the sons and daughters to fight, what are we really fighting for? What are they going over to fight in the Middle East?
The Suez Canal, I guess.
That's correct. That's all and there was an agreement. This whole area is governed by an agreement. I think it's called the Sykes-Picot Agreement, 1916. When the World War I ended, the Turks, let's just call them the Turks, like we call the Russians the Soviet Union, kind of obscure. It's the Russians, the Ottoman Empire. It's Turkey, right? When they lost their empire because they were defeated, the French and the British got together and they just carved up the Middle East like they owned it because they did.
Yeah.
And the French got Lebanon and Syria. And the British took Iraq and Palestine and Jordan and Saudi. And why did they do that? Because they had Egypt and they had that Suez Canal.
Right.
And from the perspective of I have 5 military-age kids, 5-year age, right? You've met some of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going over to fight in someone else's backyard. And here's what that guy thinks. That guy. Because he's got a historical memory. He's not fucking stupid like my kids are. He knows about the Sykes-Picot Agreement. He knows that these European powers came into his homeland and scrambled everybody's ass because they were some good jolly bank robbers, and they were just there to get the fucking money out of India and China. So they didn't really want to do anything to help these people. They made them hate each other. They found every tribal division where people were fighting with swords and armed them. They took the Sunnis and Shias and pitted them against each other and then stuck the Kurds in there for a dose of fucking crazy. Okay? And they were able to manage the mouth to that Red Sea with a handful of people, and they had millions of people going nuts, and that's what we're living in right now. So if you live there, you fucking know this history.
Right.
Because you're a gang, right?
Right.
And you know you got played.
And you're waiting.
And here's what you know from your perspective. The French have already been pushed out. Lebanon and Syria are now controlled by Islamic groups.
Right.
And the Catholics that lived in Lebanon were the victims of a genocide or they left. Like some of my friends that that I talk about sometimes.
Right.
My partner, Alejandro.
Right.
Those are families that were the first Catholics, those families and the Islamic groups, the Muslim groups, destroyed those people.
Right.
So now they look at what's left. It's just the flow of history. Now they're just going to push out the Anglos, which would include us. That's what we're facing.
Good. Let's go. We're out.
Just sail on home.
Yeah, we're out of there. Yeah, this is all Kissinger and the petrodollar, and this is this whole idea that, look, if you're European, you need the fucking gas in the Middle East. You need the cobalt in the Congo. You need the I don't know. You need the what are those really good moisturizing creams that they were selling in the middle of the mall kiosk with the salt from the Dead Sea.
Salt from the Dead Sea.
Salt from the Dead Sea
there
cream.
You go.
Yeah, you need the salt from the Dead Sea cream. We don't need that shit. We don't need that shit. We don't need that gas. We don't need that oil. We don't need the cobalt. We don't need the dead salt, the Dead Sea salt cream. We don't need it. You guys need it. You fight for it. If there's really what?
This is great.
What?
This is great.
If there's really a European identity,
if
there's really a European Union, you motherfuckers unionize.
I have not talked to you
Time to fight a war.
I have not talked to you for a while, and your sword has become very sharp at exactly the right time. Everybody needs to know. Royce and I, we haven't discussed this for a long time, but we actually agree. What in the fuck are we doing there? I just said as we were coming on.
The Suez Canal?
We're the only dumbass bouncer in the history of bars that paid to be a bouncer. Usually, when you're a bouncer, you get paid to beat people up. We're actually paying. That's how bad the British have fucked up our minds.
Oh,
we're actually paying to be a bouncer.
I said it the other day. I said, look, when if you want to pay, look, It's one thing to be a whore. It's one thing to be a prostitute. It's the oldest profession in the world.
Get paid.
I get it.
Get paid.
Get paid.
Right.
Don't pay to be a prostitute.
What is
You're
that?
paying them
To be a prostitute?
to be a prostitute.
That's very strange.
That's cuckery.
That's
perverted.
That's very perverted.
It's very perverted.
It means our whole culture at its base politically is perverse. And is it any surprise
No wonder.
that it's spread out everywhere?
No wonder.
Very simple fix then, right? You restore spiritual and physical boundaries.
Yes.
That's it. The spiritual boundary is to stop being a bouncer for no benefit.
That's the political boundary.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, there is a case to be made for being a Hessian. I'm a mercenary. That's a choice. And as the Godfather said, what a man does for his living is none of the Godfather's concern. I mean, if people want to be mercenaries, like I have a friend. You were talking about your friend. I have a friend. They're mercenaries. They're killers for pay. Well, they served in the military. Nah, it's a voluntary. It's a choice. It's your choice you make. It's a mercenary role. That's cool. You're getting paid.
No, that's not cool.
No, it's a choice.
Yes.
It's a choice. People are making a choice.
Yes.
But to do things.
But even that's not cool. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
No, I'm saying for us to do things as a culture and not understanding the choices that are being made for us, and our whole society is wound into this conservatism. I love the fact that, when you first started to say that,
Conservative?
it bothered me, okay? I have to be honest. But actually now, after watching this Ron DeSantis fight,
Yeah.
Trump is making it cool not to be a conservative.
Yes.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Because the conservatives suck.
Yeah, because what he's saying is this whole conservative movement is really, the scam here.
And that's why they say, you're not a conservative.
Yeah.
And I
not.
read it all the time. You're a liberal.
Oh.
Oh, I guess I am.
No, I'm not.
No,
a liberal.
I'm saying
Yeah.
there are certain ideas in here. Let me give you a liberal idea.
Mm-hmm.
Real liberalism, American liberalism, know your own tradition. We have an anti-war movement here. It's unlike the one in Europe. We had an organic movement of people that said, we don't want to have a military-industrial complex. We don't want to run our country killing people. Right. That's the core of what has turned into this perversity that's on the way to send $95 billion.
$100 billion.
Small change, baby.
Some change.
We just robbed the Pootie for $2 trillion. Look over here at this $100 billion. Fight about that. I mean,
the international commerce is in such great jeopardy because
our interests.
Because a ragtag band of Houthis and their blowfish are threatening
protect our international
the
interests.
Communication lines of the entire region. And international business can't survive this. But we have enough good faith in the in the business model.
Can I tell you a secret?
To send $100 billion.
Wait, I want to tell you a secret. Your listeners and viewers are going to love this. Here's a secret. So there's actually real boats carrying real shit going through that canal. Right. It's actually a very important waterway. These boats some of them are bulk carriers, some are tankers. A lot of them are container vessel ships carrying your IKEA supplies.
Fuck IKEA. I never liked IKEA
but
anyway.
I'm going to tell you what happened.
I don't like IKEA.
All of the international shipping companies, the big ones, guess where they're all from? They're all Europeans.
Oh, but no, not even that. We're still under British
Admiralty law. That's correct.
Well, that's the greatest sign right there. Who we're protecting.
And when you want to talk about not beating the house, you don't go into the king's court and fight with the king. It doesn't have
the
a good
British
outcome.
Admiral law of the waterways.
Yeah, that's the way it is
right now in America.
For real.
Yeah, we abide by the law.
That's correct.
There you go. Do I need to say more, ladies and gentlemen?
But no, you got to understand
who you're really fighting for, who you're bleeding for, who you're giving money to.
But let me tell you some of the unintended consequences, because I have a theory. Mm-hmm. Who's paying the Houthis to pop off these missiles? And I'm going to give you another theory. I'm not saying this is the only thing, but if you get over here on this street corner where the money is, all these international shipping companies, right? Because the Fed said, they have a vote, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then the shipping companies have nothing to ship because there's no fucking money.
Right.
So the steamship companies were getting 20,000 a container during the COVID helicopter money surge.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1,500. You know what it is today?
What?
Oh, it's up to about 6,000 and moving up quick.
Mm.
Oh, so there's always money to be made in war, isn't
Right.
there?
Right.
War is very inflationary.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
The Biden administration finds themselves in a tight bind. It's a tight bind. If they keep going with this shit, there's going to be a huge wave of inflation right before the election. They'll do really goofy things like they're doing right now, taking all the Trump taxes that were meant to protect the jobs of Democrat union labor
Mm-hmm.
and lowering those taxes way down and selling out the American manufacturing, what's left of it. They're doing it right now because they want to give you a nice inflation number after all. So they're lowering the tariffs,
Mm-hmm.
which makes things cheaper.
Yep.
Okay, didn't really change inflation. It's a statistical anomaly
Right.
because as long as they keep printing money,
We're good.
we're good. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you that things are not what they seem to be. We got to drill down.
They're exactly what they seem. You're getting fucked, and
Well,
you're
if you
paying
want to make
for
it simple, that's a good T-shirt.
The shit is exactly what it seems.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
You're getting fucked, and you're putting money on the nightstand for it. That's it.
That's funny.
Professor Penn, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of HEBROES. We appreciate you being in here. We're hitting the 2-hour mark, which we're going to stop short so we can stream this on X. We can't.
Did you have fun?
I fucking love this. We got to do it again. Next week, we'll do it again. I'll let you talk more next week, so stay tuned.
No,
for the
you
next
were
episode
you
of
were hot
HEBROES.
tonight. You were
I'm
on
pissed
fire.
off. I can't fucking
I'm not
stand.
I'm not breaking
I
in.
can't stand. You know what really pissed me off?
Huh.
That they would call Tucker a traitor. That really
Pissed me off too.
That really made me upset this
Pissed
week.
me off.
And it's not that I agree with Tucker on everything. Tucker came from in the machine. He unknowingly has been indicted, but he's a hell of a lot better than anything else we got out there in mainstream media. And for them to call him a traitor is just the clearest sign
That they're afraid of something. They're afraid.
The narrative is crumbled. I mean, the narrative is just has become as decadent as we possibly could imagine. So, I
So
was pissed
spread
off
the
today.
word, send out the podcast, click the like button, leave comments. We need your help to build the movement.
Yeah.
We're not doing this for fun. We're doing this because we're on a mission. We need your help. Please help. Free People Radio. Is that saying too much?
That was great, man. I had a great time.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Professor
Going
Penn.
to see you
We're
next
going to do
week.
it next week.
All right.
We're going to do HEBROES again next week.
All right.
Because I went off the handle. But anyway, we appreciate you all being here. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. We thank the War Room Posse and everybody over at the War Room for streaming the podcast on Getter and on Rumble. Grace Chong, Maureen Bannon, the great Steve Bannon. We hope that you have an open mind to the things we're saying. I know it's tough. It strikes right at the heart of things. It's uncomfortable, but it's the reality. At least it's the
search for truth.
We challenge you. We challenge you to test it. Put it to the test. You know, pull your own research and see what we're saying. Just check and see if the British Admiral law is the law of the land. If the American
The law of the seas.
the law of the sea, yeah. America, because the money that flows across the land comes from the commerce that done across the seas. So ipso facto, we're still living under John Halford John Mackinder's, Eurasian World Island theory. Anyway, we appreciate you being here. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy this Friday. Tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, Real America's Voice, the Royce White Show, the premiere of the Royce White Show. So tune in for that. Happy to be on Real America's Voice with some other patriotic pipe hitters like the great Steve Bannon. Tune in for that. I'll see you guys next week, or I'll talk to you guys next week for the Royce White Radio Show on the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Isn't that cool?
We're enjoying that a
Well,
lot.
I want to say one thing, young man.
Okay.
Radio is the new cool
Yeah.
because radio is a place where we can speak in an uncensored fashion.
Yeah.
We can tell the truth, any truth, as long as we don't swear.
Yeah. Which wouldn't have went over well for today's podcast. But
isn't it interesting that in some venues you can swear like a sailor, but there's other rules? Isn't that interesting?
The thing I'm enjoying the most about the radio show is being able to blend the music and the culture in with the message. I think a lot of black music, especially from the 70s, was misappropriated and used for ill-gotten political gain. So I'm happy to be able to
Go to the
repurpose it.
John Fredericks Radio Network
Repurpose the
website
music.
and see if it's in your city, if there's a radio tower. It's Philadelphia, it's Atlanta, it's Charlotte, it's Pittsburgh. It's important urban centers. And if you're watching Royce and you have connectivity in those communities, please let the community know that a very not cool radio station has a super cool radio show with great music and entertainment and sports and politics.
I wouldn't say that. I think the radio station's cool, but anyway,
I'm just saying we got a new audience for this radio station.
It's good to mix a little
new audience.
It's good to mix a little James Brown with the America First message. It has a certain unique flavor and ring to it. But anyway, we appreciate you guys. We thank you, Professor Penn, for being back in again. We're going to do it again next week. Please subscribe to the Professor Penn podcast on YouTube if you haven't already. You can also follow him on social media now, Professor Penn on most platforms. So Professor Penn
is Prof Penn podcast on X.
You can find him. It's going to be Professor Penn on most platforms. So like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great weekend. The fight continues. Don't die a jerk off. As always, God bless America and Godspeed.